嵐嵐40夢はそうそういつすぐそばにある譲らないよ誰も邪魔できない体中風を集めて巻き起こす嵐嵐40
普通に喋ってる方が早口じゃね。私はちゃんとね、私日本早口の女の子で、日本好きなんでよろしくお願いします。Saikyou-Chanです。Saikyou-Chanこれからもフォロワーして有名になってのお願いします。みんなで応援しようぜ。絶対応援しようぜ。絶対有名になるぞ。
The day thus far is a rather average day. You appear at a randomized spot in Kabukicho, the nightlife district of Tokyo. There, you brush shoulders with the overwhelming quantity of thrill seekers and drunks roaming the small streets. Desperate young men accost young women. Barely conscious folk are on a fine line of heartily keeping it all together and spilling their insides across the concrete. The district is known for degeneracy of this nature, so it's as average can get in a place like this. However, you spot a girl huddled over behind the dozens of passerbys. You can sense an offensive odor creeping up your nostrils. The atmosphere around her feels yellow and sickly green, like pestilence. You inch closer and gaze upon a woman covered head to toe in eviction notices, eating noodles from a giant bowl. Her hair looks heavy and strong of luster from the buildup of oil and filth. Her exposed bits of limbs showcase a plethora of small sores and grime. She is looking down into her phone, recording herself for the millions of people that would accidentally stumble upon her existence. Who is this? This is Shirokumatyandaisuki1999, or more often known as Saikyou-Chan, a young adult currently scheming in Tokyo, Japan. Saikyo means the greatest or the strongest, which is something she often refers to herself as in her video descriptions. This could be a reference to Saikyou, Minera no Jirai-chan, which, from my understanding, is a webcomic about an emotionally unstable landmine girl. This holds significance, considering how Saikyo represents herself and seems to take pride in being a Jirai-kei, or a landmine type, which is a fashion subculture that came to popularity in recent years. Basically, landmine type, as a style, bears resemblance to dark girly fashion, which is a darker, edgier than typical style that some young women wear to differentiate from the norm. It's called landmine type because those who are involved in the subculture are often described as dangerous or triggering, where mingling with someone of this type is akin to stepping on a landmine and releasing hell and doom upon yourself. Often, those that wear the Jirai style are mentally unsound and are often associated with self-harm, drug abuse, partying, and other rebellious behaviors. This is incredibly fitting in the context of Saikyou-Chan's life and what we'll learn to know about it from the earlier days all the way up until now. Saikyou had a complicated past and unusual upbringing, which has led her to this point that you see her in now. She is unkempt in every way imaginable, and her temporary living space is in utter shambles. Insects cover the walls, and various piles of trash and utensils scattered around a small stinking room deprived of a working air conditioning unit in the middle of a sweltering Far East summer. At first glance, you would expect her to be a hikikomori, which is a young adult that has become a complete shut-in. They often live as recluses within their parents' home, or are sent away to live alone at the expense of their parents. They tend not to work, have very little to no contact with the outside world, and slowly rot away in their homes as they pile up months or years of garbage that they have accumulated and neglected to clean up. Hikikomori is more so a title given to someone that would share these sort of traits, and not really a sort of mental disorder, but instability and mental health can definitely be a cause for someone to live the hikikomori lifestyle. Saikyou nearly fits the definition as far as lifestyle goes, apart from two major factors. She is very outgoing and not afraid to mingle with strangers, and she does not appear to have any contact with her family, or really any close relationship to her family for as long as she's lived. There are reasons for this, and I'll go into depth regarding the early life of Saikyou, how it hindered her mental state as an adult, and how she ended up where she is now, quickly growing in popularity on TikTok and various other areas of the internet for her outlandish behavior and showcases of train wreck events that set her further and further away from a stable and sound life. Even as I speak, the life of Saikyou is currently snowballing downwards, and it's hard to predict where she'll end up day by day as time moves on.
今何してる方なんですか、白玉さんは。
今フリーターみたいな感じですね。
あ、そうなんですね。
はい。
フリーター、今何歳なんですか。
20代です。
20代で。
はい。
On July 4th, 2023, a video on a Japanese channel geared toward interviewing people on the streets with tragic lives was posted, which features Saikyou-Chan in the first half. This was a year before she got her sudden rush of viewers and popularity. In this video, the events of her early life are explained, and some details of her current living situation can be learned. There's a lot to go through here, but the story that is explained can give a much better understanding of why Saikyou-Chan is the way that she is. Her main goal is to be famous by being an influencer on social media. She's from Yokohama and came from a family that she has a complicated relationship with. She describes her upbringing as not fun. She realized from a young age that her parents are not normal parents, and that they psychologically abused her, along with similar abuse experienced from other students at her school. She attempted suicide in her teens, and her first attempt was when she was in her first year in middle school. She hasn't been in contact with her parents since she was about 18 or 19 years old, which pretty much deems them as strangers to her. She doesn't even know if they're currently alive. At the time of the recording of this interview, she got in contact with her grandma via phone call for the first time in a long time, since Saikyou-Chan needed help with medical expenses due to an unspecified illness. She mentioned to her grandma that she was thinking of becoming a porn actress. Her grandma responded in a cold, harsh, unfriendly manner and said, "What are you talking about? You're over 20 years old, and you're an adult, so figure your life out." Saiko-chan said she thought her grandma would be more sympathetic, or would want to help, because her grandma knows the kind of life she's been through. But instead, her grandma had a cold attitude with her, and Saiko-chan believes that it's probably because her grandma is a selfish person that prioritizes her own well-being first. Saiko-chan has a little sister that she knows of. However, when she was 17 or 18, she learned from her grandma that after her parents got divorced when she was in 4th grade, her father apparently got remarried to a foreign woman and had a baby with her. Saiko-chan said that she basically came from a single-parent household, with her mother being the only present caregiver, and she didn't want to live with her due to the unpleasant history she had growing up with her, so she lived on her own, and eventually lived in a psychiatric group home from ages 17 to 19. This was when her grandma called her and told her that her dad had remarried and had a new baby. Her grandma said, "Can I tell you some heavy news?" And before Saiko-chan responded, her grandma blurted the news about her father to her, which is something she was not prepared to hear. Her grandma said that her father's wife may have needed money for their son's elementary school, which may have played a major part as to why they got married. Saikyo was admitted to the mental hospital at 16 years old for 1 year and 1 month due to a mental breakdown over the bullying and abuse, and she stopped going to school. At home, she didn't feel like she belonged to her household, didn't get along with her mother after her parents divorced, and she wanted to run away from home, so she got admitted to the psychiatric hospital. She graduated from middle school, but she dropped out of high school. The bullying started when she was in kindergarten by one girl, and it kept going as time moved on. Simultaneously, she was being abused by her parents at home. She was bullied so intensely at school that she had stopped talking altogether and had selective mutism until she was about 20 years old. She said that she didn't know about selective mutism and thought something was genuinely wrong with her since she couldn't speak. She said that the adults around her were treating her like she was fragile, and her parents didn't listen to her when she brought this to their attention. At school, since she didn't talk, the other kids treated her like she was weird and then bullied her more. This worsened her stress and further contributed to her lack of speech. For example, when the teacher called her name, she wouldn't and couldn't respond, "Hi," and the other kids would laugh at her. Her little sister was not subject to the same treatment, since her personality was the type where she was able to stand up for herself when others tried to challenge her, while Saiko-chan was the opposite, where she was much more timid and more willing to take the mental beating just so the situations wouldn't escalate much further beyond verbal torment. Her little sister had friends as well, while Saiko-chan was alone and forsaken. She took a lot of breaks from school due to being ill. During middle school, she was able to attend and graduate, but in high school, her illness worsened and was unable to eat or bathe as much. She felt like she didn't want to do anything at home besides lay around and sleep, which led her parents to believe that she was behaving abnormally. From her perspective, her parents are one of the reasons as to why she was going crazy. They suggested for her to go to the mental hospital, since she is acting differently in their eyes, and that's why she was admitted. Saiko-chan pondered the question, why am I being told this by people who did horrible things to me? One of the worst things that her parents said to her was when her mother told her, "I should have aborted you," or "I wish I never gave birth to you." Ever since she was little, she was told things such as, "Your life is worthless," or "You're a hopeless, incompetent person." Her mom admitted, "I was told by people around me that it would be better if I didn't give birth to you." She was told by her grandma that her parents were both working adults when they met while traveling. Her mom was 24 and her dad was 28 when they got married. When her parents got divorced when she was in 4th grade, she ended up with her mother. When asked who is the kinder parent, she said neither of them are nice. They are quick to anger, and they have never been good to her. She hated them, and she never considered them to be parental figures. They never offered support or help, and didn't even listen to her when she needed assistance, or never talked to her about her problems. They often told her, "Oh well, there's nothing we can do." Her mom worked part-time as a dental hygienist, while Saikyou-Chan and her sister were going to school. They were never really wealthy, pre- and post-divorce. Saiko-chan said that the abuse worsened post-divorce since they had more alone time. Before she was hospitalized during her first year of high school, she had been in a psychiatric clinic. At the time, she was prescribed Chinese herbal medicine for her mental illness, and she took them while going to high school. Saikyou-chan claims that the male nurses and patients in the psychiatric ward sexually harassed her while she was initially admitted there when she was 16. They would say inappropriate things to her, like, "Do you have a boyfriend?" or "How much sexual experience do you have?" and touched her behind as they walked past her. She was only 16 years old, while the men that harassed her were in their 30s and 40s. She recalls one time that an older man in his 60s or 70s had pressed his body up against her back, and she quickly walked away. During her initial 1 year and 1 month stay at the mental hospital, she ran away once because she had troubles with another patient. She escaped, went to her house, and knocked on the door at around midnight. Her parents answered the door and were furious and proceeded to call the police on her. When they arrived, she was placed in a patrol car and was interrogated by a group of policemen, asking her why she was knocking on her parents' door that late at night. Saikyou-chan acknowledged that she knew it was not good for her to run away from the mental hospital, but she felt that her parents calling the cops on her was unfair, and it was not as big of a deal for them to report her in that way. The cops then called the mental hospital and dropped her back off there. It was then that the mental hospital notified her that there was a vacancy in their group home and that she was able to fill the spot and live there long term. Cell phones were allowed in the group home, but at the time she only had a flip phone and not a smartphone. She lived alone in her own room, and the group home had meetings 1 to 2 times a month. She didn't feel like leaving her room, so she skipped most of the meetings except the initial one, where she introduced herself to others. But after the initial meeting, it was too much of a bother for her to join them. She explained to them that she was born in Yokohama, then moved to Hokkaido when her parents got divorced when she was in 4th grade. After leaving the psychiatric group home in Hokkaido, she moved to Tokyo. She has been living alone since and would earn money by working part-time jobs, mainly as a server at restaurants. She recently did a trial night shift at a Kan cafe, which is a manga or anime-themed cafe. She has never had a boyfriend, and due to her past trauma from bullying, abuse, etc., she has a fear of men and is unable to fall in love or date. When she was in 2nd grade, there was a school assembly, and the students were standing in a schoolyard, and then a couple of bullies went up to her and pranked her by doing the kancho move. Except, instead of stabbing her behind, they did it to her front. This traumatized her, and even to this day, she has a hard time looking at her body. Recently, when she was working her night shift at a Kan cafe, she was asked if she ever had a boyfriend or has slept with anyone. When she replies that she hasn't, she felt safe to explain herself, since there were both male and female customers. When she explained her lack of dating experience due to the bullying and the trauma from the kancho incident, she was laughed at by a 50-year-old male customer from a distance and made fun of, and he proceeded to call her Baba, which is a phrase meaning old hag. She decided to share her story in this interview to spread awareness, and she is also considering legal action for the harassment from the 50-year-old man. She wants to spread awareness of the abuse she went through to somehow provide advice or guidance to those that can relate. And she hopes to spread awareness using social media of all the horrible things said to her by others and promote empathy among listeners. Now, her current objective is to take legal action first and then become famous by social media and becoming an influencer. She plans to achieve this by sharing her past and current experiences. She is currently not taking any psychiatric medication and has not been medicated since she was 20 years old. When she did take medication back then, she was taking 20 to 30 tablets of this unspecified medicine at a time. When asked about her diagnosis, she said she was diagnosed with a developmental disorder when she was hospitalized in Hokkaido at 15 years old. When she was hospitalized, she took a psychiatric test, and the results said that it was more like a brain disorder rather than an illness. It's a disability that cannot be cured like a disease. This surprised her because this was the first time she's heard she had a mental disability. She wants to be an influencer to share these experiences, and she said she likes to talk fast. She said with her recent experience being a hikikomori, she can do various things and go anywhere at any time. She said she's gone to Tokyo on her own at age 15, gone to karaoke alone, and ate meals alone. She's good at being alone, doing various things on her own for over 20 years, so she wants to use this expertise. She said she wants to work hard on her YouTube and TikTok channels. As of the video recording, she said she currently has a TikTok, but she has not been too active on it. She's been busy lately and wasn't in a good mental state to use it. She was thinking of being a porn actress and has been to many porn agencies. She met someone that works in the entertainment industry that introduced her to an agency. She was nervous that it would be looked down upon that she never had a boyfriend or any experience, but they viewed it as a good thing for her to be a fresh newcomer. It didn't end up working out because the manager of the company was telling her to hide the fact that she's ill and lie and tell everyone that she has experience. She heard that the producer had also been taking a break because of COVID, so they didn't proceed with production. When asked if being a sexy actress would be a scary job, she said that she was willing to do it if she can earn enough money to cover her medical expenses for her mental health, and she has always been interested in the entertainment industry since she wants to be famous. When asked about how much it cost for her psychiatric treatment, she said she is not sure since she is still preparing for it. She prefers to have it done via counseling. She said she grinds her teeth so much that her jawbone is now sticking out the sides of her face, and she is hiding it with her hair. She wants surgery to correct the bone back into place. She said the treatment may cost hundreds of thousands of yen, or even 1,000,000 yen in total. She also cares about her appearance because she wants to pursue the sexy actress career, or entertainment industry. When asked if she was going to give up being a sexy actress, she said she has not given up on that goal, but would like to change the agency she was looking to work with because they were unprofessional and she had a disagreement with the management. They didn't necessarily argue or fight, but there was a lot of turmoil and disputes between her and the agency. These are all of the main points gone over in this video. There's obviously plenty to point at regarding what causes Saikyou-Chan to behave the way she currently does. Her life appears to have always been a constant struggle of being on the defense. This constant need to protect herself from malicious people have taken its toll, and the distrust that she has in most people, especially men, become very apparent in a lot of her current activity. It's time to look at a few random events that Saikyou-Chan has gotten into, and where her life is heading at this very moment.
しれない。私にフルーツとかさ、蜂蜜みたいなシナミが好きなの、ニコカミューとかシロットみたいなやつは苦手だから、こういうフルーツみたいなティネナミが好きなんだ。僕らスーパーボーイ We are good 嫌なことあってもどっかへ加工してやるだけやるだけいいでしょ。あ、夢は自分たちいいでしょ。邪魔できない考えた中に金を集めて負けをこそすごい楽しいよ。I'm happy。オランゴもハッピー。オランゴちゃんとのおすすめのデートスポットあったらコメント欄に。止まったクマね。これどこで寝るクマ？こいつもここで寝てるんクマや。てかここしか寝る場所ないクマやね。どうするクマ？お風呂場で寝るクマ？それとも何これ？ノイズかと思った。ホワイトミミス？洋服の紐っすね。これパーカーの紐ってこれ何？これ寝てんだけど紐なんか寝てる。やだー。
Saikyou-Chan began to post plenty of videos on TikTok in March of 2024, and even a plethora of posts on Twitter that would consist of tons of thoughts and concerns she has had regarding things that were happening in her life, such as the looming threat of being evicted, as her landlord constantly sends notices and warnings through mail. Although she brings her attention to this, it isn't long before the focus is shifted onto some of her favorite activities, such as dancing around to current trending music in Japan, or making and eating various cheap foods within the rotting, infested innards of her living space. Karaoke is a common pastime activity, and if her urges to socialize become strong, the presence of her small stuffed animals give her a lot to reflect on. From my understanding, these bears are old trinkets from her childhood that she had always held on to all of these decades later. I imagine these to be a comforting and familiar presence in a world where basically everyone who was meant to be family has left her. Many of these videos are a means to make her presence more plentiful. They often follow trends such as dancing or cooking processes, but the untidy living space where the walls and floors move with insects crawling about and the piles of trash in every corner makes the attempt at a cute, harmless video become something horrifying and disgusting to look at. She does her makeup in strange ways. She takes the countless eviction notices sent to her and makes strange outfits out of them, as well as interior decal for her curtains and walls. She speaks in such a strange way where nothing appears to progress anywhere. She repeats herself often when discussing any given subject, but words things differently every time to make it appear as if something new is being said. In one of the most recent videos from August, Saikyou-Chan runs into issues that would cause more strangeness to occur in her life. A video is posted on August 11th, where she is attempting to open her locked door, but to no avail. She thinks that the key may have been broken, or that the lock to her door may have been changed by the landlord. She calls the police to inform them of this, only to later be greeted by a cop that was curious of the situation. Saikyou explains that someone may have broken her door, and that she is just needing to get in. The cop appears a bit weirded out by her, and asks her to come over to him so that she can tell him more. She takes this as a threatening situation and proceeds to call him weird, creepy, and strange. She asks him why she has to come over to him to speak, and continues to belittle him and refer to him in negative ways. She walks away, and although followed by the cop for a few minutes more, she gets away and continues with her life. Now, without a place to sleep and no one to get help from, she takes to the streets and the internet to communicate with viewers and vent her frustrations. The events at this point get a bit difficult to keep chronological track of, and plenty is missed due to the nature of live videos no longer being available after a stream ends. From what little I've been able to catch, It seems like every day, something outlandish is happening. In some videos, Saikyou meets with a young man who appears to be a host at a host club. Commenters in these videos warn her not to interact, and some even ask her why she's still addicted to the communication of hosts.
あ、そっか、廊下やばいな。何が、廊下怒られるって。待って。何？もう。そう、本当に。廊下だとうるさいってなるから部屋戻ろう。苦情来たらホテルの人追い出されちゃうわ。
And some even ask her why she was still addicted to communicating with hosts. Supposedly, she has had a problem in the past with spending money on visiting host clubs, and it's clear that the lack of social life has driven her to create artificial relationships with these people whose sole purpose is to make money off of lonely girls. Saikyou eventually finds this man in particular to be very sketchy and questions his intentions. She also meets with various other forms of life through her recent rise in popularity. There's an instance where some guys approach her near her old living place while she attempts to re-enter the room. They talk and joke with her. Meanwhile, an entirely different stranger is scaling the other side of the building. He climbs through her window and opens the door to her former room. Her and the other men are shocked and confused, but overall, the situation between all of them appeared to play out fairly normal. They hung out for a bit, talked, and Saikyou was now back living in her old place through means of breaking and entering. Unfortunately, I can't really keep up with the number of things happening in her life, mostly due to the time zone differences making it difficult to catch a stream, as well as the language barrier. I'll go over some of the Twitter posts she created in the past year, and try to shed some more light on what she's doing. There are some photos of her room on here, showcasing the worst of messes. She says, "I want to appear on Eriyoshi Seminar's Tidying Up Rescue," which appears to be a show where people help clean the living spaces of hikikimoris and other forms of shut-ins that could not maintain cleanliness in their lives. There is also a photo of her futon, where she says, "I'm thinking of auctioning this futon that I've been using for over 20 years without washing it on TikTok." Other posts she makes have claims where people would message or call her more often than desired when doing TikTok live videos, and she would post about this in a rather high quantity of posts. This follows the trend of her repeating herself when she speaks to the camera. She doesn't appear to be aware of the repetition, and it becomes evident even in writing. She has various posts about her stuffed bears, such as Odango-chan, something that she loves and holds dearly to her. The sentimental value of this bear is great, and appears to be a way for Saikyou to speak her thoughts out loud to something, in which she replies to herself in the role of Odango. Saikyou appears to still behave in juvenile ways, the interaction with her bears being the most obvious. Two series of events in particular caught my attention. The recurrence of candid photos being taken of strangers, with Saikyou explaining that these people did something that was malicious and unpleasant for her. This paramedic, who may have been called to assist Saikyou with an injury she sustained at her home. She complains that he kept asking her the same question, and was stepping on things in her room, which is something impossible to avoid given the amount of mess that's present. Some other encounters will be shown where a person is taking pictures of her and the sores present on her legs without permission, or the sense of a delivery driver that she believed to be stalking her, or this man who had allegedly swung a bat in front of her face multiple times in front of the Kabukicho station. One strange moment was a showcase of her injured foot posted on May 27th. In some posts, it's explained that she had let this injury go on for multiple days without cleaning or treating it. She says that she can't take a bath when she's sick, and the wound can't be disinfected due to her inability to care for herself. Apparently, the wound was caused by stepping on a knife on the floor, which dug about 6 centimeters into her heel. The photos continue to be posted over the course of a few weeks, where the cut is clearly infected, and she tends to it by wrapping it in dirty shreds of fabric. Overall, Saikyou-Chan has a very childlike demeanor and has no sense of urgency when it comes to resolving the blatantly obvious issues in her life. The tendency to talk to her stuffed bears, the focus on pleasures, and the inability to understand why something isn't going her way are all signs of stunted mental development from her rocky upbringing. There doesn't appear to be much documentation of her life prior to the interview posted last year, and it's unclear if she had made any progress or has worsened since this time. Unfortunately, I'm led to believe that things have only gotten worse, and that with the introduction of an internet audience to her life, she has the advantage of finding some sort of communication to be had beyond the use of her bears, and the potential of some viewers feeling pity on her and willing to donate to help Saikyou create some sort of order in her life. But it's not certain that these are overall positives. With so many new eyes on her, there comes the potential for plenty of snakes and shitty people willing to benefit off of her in some way, taking advantage of her feeble state of mind. This is already happening on a small scale, as seen in plenty of current live streams, and so far, Saikyou has dismissed many attempts of exploitation that some of these viewers would try on her. Although she opened Pandora's box by putting herself out there for millions to watch, her skepticism and doubt about people's intentions have done well to shut these people down, and she has no fear in speaking her mind when she feels the sensation that somebody is trying to fuck her over in some way. As much of a hindrance this caution has been for her throughout her life, it would serve to be a valuable asset when navigating the massive waves of trash and subhuman degeneracy that is destined to come. Countless bits of media can be read and listened to about Saikyou. Although it is hard to find anything accurately translated to English, there's a certain aura about Saikyou's life that can feel like it's pulling you in the more you learn about it. The nonchalant demeanor of going about with her issues where many others would crack under pressure is incredibly interesting to look at. Despite her tendency to speak nonsense more often than not, and despite the ability to understand any given experience she's having from her perspective, Saikyou-Chan has the potential to create some extremely entertaining scenarios as time progresses. She may still be feeling around at how she wants to present herself on the internet, and how she'll go about attempting to pull herself from this wicked life that was damned upon her. But with someone who is this mentally distraught and social media obsessed, I have no doubt that Saikyou's near future will explode into a haven of laughs, tears, bizarre occurrences, and everything else that makes an anomalous person so desirable to follow and watch, as the world can end up on many different paths. Saikyou has basically only just started, and I see no end to her endeavors anytime soon. Take care, and have an excellent night.
Like this is well